Welcome to another episode of Men on Fire here on Soul Mechanic TV and Soul Mechanic Radio. In today's episode, I wanted to talk about something that, well, basically because I want to talk about it because it's been affecting me lately, and that is attitude. And in the past, I've used different ways to change my attitude in order to bring my spirits up, to think of more positive mental things. And lately, I've just been a little bit down. Lots going on, of course. With the COVID-19 and all those things, and wanting to further my reach on my channel and my podcast and coaching people. So I just want to expand that as well. And to be quite frank, it's just not going as quickly as I would like, which of course is usual for most of us, right? So I thought we'd talk a little bit about attitude because it's such a huge thing. In my opinion, I think it's the biggest thing or the biggest common denominator why most of us can't get ahead in life and have problems becoming successful, however we define that. And the little difference is the attitude, the big difference in whether it's positive or negative. So there's not much difference between, really, when you think about it, not much difference between successful people and unsuccessful people, because many of the times they're living pretty the same lives. It's just a matter of the way their thought pattern is, and much of that has to do with attitude. So one of the first things we have to realize is that negative is normal. It's absolutely normal to think negative thoughts, and negative things are going to happen to us. That's just the way it is. We have to learn how to handle it. Life will throw us curveballs. Not everything is a bowl of cherries or a ton of fun. It's just not going to be that way. So life throws us curveballs, and we have to try to figure out how to handle that and not just, live in it or dwell on it. It's that old adage of, the glass half full or half empty. Well, the pessimist thinks it's half empty and the optimist thinks it's half full. And they're both right. It's just a matter of attitude. So it starts to come back to us when we see so many negative things in the news. And that's happening so much lately. And I can't blame anyone for really getting down. We started to get a little bit better in a lot of the COVID and coronavirus things, and now it's having a little bit negative effect again. A lot of countries are starting to have more cases for whatever reason. I'm not going to get any of those reasons, and this is certainly not a political statement whatsoever. So I don't want to talk about that, but we as victims, we seem like we're victims when we're watching all that negative stuff that's happening, especially on the news, reading it somewhere online in the newspaper, if the newspaper still exists in your area, wherever you're getting that news. It could be Facebook is terrible for that. There's so much, honestly, there's so much fake stuff on there. Please do not take everything for gospel that you read. It's like one of the tabloids, right? That really, the old Inquirer tabloid that just made up stuff, and hopefully it's stuck. And it's the reason that we love to see this negative things that are happening to people is because then we can say to ourselves, in our minds at least, we're not saying it outwardly, but we're saying in our minds, we're thinking, wow, I'm really glad I'm not that person or those victims of whatever I'm watching. So we're glad we're not them. So then this way we can justify our lives of playing it safe, of not taking any chances. And that in itself is a disease, in my opinion. And that comes back to attitude. And if we concentrate on what's wrong with the society, we won't be able to concentrate on what's right with it either. So in many ways, the media, and in some ways, different politicians, whatever, there's, conspiracy theorists out there that have these theories. There's governments and entities that want us to just stay busy and want us to be too busy to think of being creative and becoming as powerful as we could actually be as human beings, and just concentrate on all that negative stuff. Feed them the negative stuff, get them hooked on that, because they'll see that just staying inside and being safe is the way to be, because that's what they've become used to. And Jim Rohn, one of my early mentors, he once said, it's better to live 30 years being adventurous than standing in the corner for 100 years and being safe. So it's really not how long you live then, but how you live. So that again goes back to attitude. And people have different attitudes about everything, and whether it's good or it's bad. And good or bad are just two different words. They're just two things that are opposite ends of the spectrums. It doesn't really mean that you're a good or bad person or anything like that by thinking some negative thoughts and having a bad attitude once in a while. However, it becomes a disease when you allow it to creep in for a long period of time. And there's actually 7 diseases of attitude that I'm going to go over very quickly here. We could get into each one of these in depth, and I do some of that on some of my coaching programs. However, right now we're just going to kind of skim over them. So the first disease of attitude is indifference. And if you're indifferent, you just don't care about whether process A happens or process B happens. You just, well, that's okay, whatever happens is what happens. It is what it is. What a saying, so common saying that is, which really means nothing. It just means you're a fence sitter. But being so indifferent and not caring, it's living a mild form of life. So once again, you're that person that's standing in the corner for 100 years, being fed and clothed and kept warm and living 100 years, versus somebody living an adventurous life that's experiencing so many things. And that's the reason we're even here on this planet, is to experience things. So sometimes we have to get out of that indifferent thought pattern and start getting out there and playing the game of life, not just being a bystander. And number 2 disease, the second disease of attitude, is indecision. And that's when you can't make up your mind. And, a life full of adventure is full of many decisions. If you would live an adventurous life, you've got to make a lot of decisions every day. Where am I going? What will I eat? What will I wear? How am I going to get there? If you're just playing safe, sitting inside on the couch, and your only choice is, salt and vinegar or barbecue chips, or what season of whatever show to watch on Netflix, that's okay once in a while. We all have down times, and maybe we need to relax and veg out on something and not think too seriously about some topics. But we can't live a life like that. What kind of life is that? It isn't a life, in my opinion. And number 3 on the list of diseases of attitude is doubt. And doubt is like a plague, just like the virus that we're experiencing now. So doubt leads to self-doubt. So you might just have doubt about something working out, or whether you're going to get financing, or whether you're going to get a job, or some that sort of thing. But then when things don't go right for a while, you get a lot of self-doubt and you stop believing in yourself. And I'm guilty of that too. And even just recently, I started to feel some self-doubt that I could accomplish certain things. But to get out of that, all you have to do is get back in the game. You know, give me a mitt, coach, and throw me the ball. Like, I'll get back in that game and get moving again. Because when you're sitting still, that's when doubt creeps in. And when you're moving, even though, you know, some of the pessimists might say, well, what if you go in the wrong direction? That's okay, because at least I'm going in a direction, and if I'm going the wrong one, I'm going to find out. If you're not going anywhere, you're not going to find anything out except having self-doubt. And the understanding of your own self-worth is the beginning of the progress. And number 4 on the list of diseases of attitude is worry. Worry. What a useless thing this is. It's devastating. It's destructive to your health, to your social life, to your family. It just breaks everything down because all you do is worry. And it's easy. Well, I won't say it's easy, but it's simple. Just give it up. What's it doing for you? Anyway, does it make you feel like you're able to help someone? I mean, you know, if something's happening across the ocean in Europe, for example, and I feel bad for those people that are, maybe there's a landslide or an earthquake and a bunch of people died. I feel empathy and sympathy. However, by worrying, I can't help them. My worry won't help them. If I could sit here and worry enough and actually make things better for them, then I'd worry all the time, because I'm helping, and we could all worry together, and everything would be better around the world. But we can't. And worrying is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it just doesn't get you anywhere. Okay, number 5 on the list of diseases of attitude is over caution. And this goes a little bit back to indecision as well. And it's the too timid approach, timidity of being afraid to take action. And it's usually brought on by this saying, what if this happens? Have you said that before? I've said it a lot. Well, I'd like to do that, but what if this happens? Or what if that happens? Or what if this happens? Holy smokes, like you can just keep going on and on and on. And then that brings in the doubt, doesn't it? So a lot of these you can see are interconnected. And with the overcaution, it's also, when you say that, what if this happens? That's the language of unsuccessful people. The people who never get anywhere or reach any of their goals. They just play it timid, and that's it, because they're afraid of what if something happened. Yeah, what if something happened? Wouldn't that be great? At least something happened, and then you can correct it. So move forward. Don't be overcautious. Number 6 on the list of the diseases of attitude is pessimism, which we touched on just a little bit there earlier. It's a deadly, deadly disease of always looking at the bad side. You're trying to find out what's wrong with things and not what's right. So it's almost like somebody standing in a beautiful cottage, staring to the west, looking at a beautiful sunset, but they can't see the sunset because all they see is the specks of dust and bugs or whatever on the window. They can't look past what's right in front of them to see the beauty because all they're worried about is the bad side of things. Yes, I could look at the sunset, but what if it harmed my eyes? Or what if I went outside to look at it, there's going to be bugs out there. One might want to sting me or bite me or whatever the case is. I don't want to get too mesmerized by the sunset, and then the sun go down, and then it's going to be dark, and then what if, and we just talked about that. So pessimism, being pessimistic, isn't a good trait. Now, being a little bit cautious about, taking care of yourself and your health and safety of others, absolutely. That's not being pessimistic, but always thinking that something bad is going to happen, not something good, always leads to something bad happening. So once again, thoughts become things. And the last one on the list, number 7 of the diseases of attitude, is complaining. If you spend 5 minutes complaining, that's 5 minutes of your life wasted. Because what has it brought you? It's similar to worry, isn't it? I mean, you can do it all you want, but it doesn't get you anywhere. You just complain about, your car, your spouse, your work, you don't have enough money, complain. Now, there's nothing wrong with getting things out in the open. Maybe make a list of them. I don't like this because of this. Now, how can I change it? And that's the key. To complain is to make a list and observe what is not what you want it to be, and then look for ways to change it. But if all you do is complain, it's just a habit. You're addicted to it, and you can't get out of it. So it's like worry. If you can get rid of some of that worry and the addiction to complaining, you're well on your way to making some huge changes in your life. Now, I once read not a poem, but kind of a guide to attitude. And I couldn't find it anywhere, and I couldn't find it on the internet either, but I kind of wrote it out from what I can remember. And this is how it goes. It's just entitled Attitude. And I have it written down here. I'm just going to read it from over here. Attitude is more important than the past. Attitude is more important than money. Attitude is more important than your circumstances. Attitude is more important than what people say or do to you. Attitude is more important than facts. Attitude is more important than intelligence. Attitude is more important than knowledge. Attitude is more important than your IQ. Attitude is more important than skills. Attitude is more important than aptitude. Attitude is more important than power. Attitude is more important than beauty. And if any of you watched the demise of the Toronto Maple Leafs last night on TV, which I saw most of, yes, the attitude of a hard-working group of players, a lunch bucket group of players, not as talented as the Leafs, took them down. They had a ton of skill. They didn't have the attitude or the work ethic to get it done once again. So attitude is huge. And Einstein said this about attitude: weakness of attitude becomes weakness of character. It creeps in there. It's like a disease. And we went over those diseases of attitude. And this was another quote I found online. It was unknown. I don't know who said it. Attitude is a difference between an ordeal and an adventure. And we talked about adventures, right? Having an adventure in your life. So something affecting you, saying like, wow, it's like you're worried about it so much, it's becoming a mountain or a molehill into a mountain, right? And you can't just drift around and be sent, what we talked about with indifferent and indecisive in life, because when you're drifting, it doesn't get you anywhere. You can't get to the top of the mountain by drifting around the bottom in the valley. It just ain't going to work. You have to move forward and find out what attitude works for you. So attitude then is everything. It's everything to you and to your life, to make your life a life worth living. Gain that attitude, that positive mental attitude, PMA, positive mental attitude. Years ago, when I was just out of high school, I went to Toronto, Ontario, and I wrote my life insurance license. And I went to a school, actually sponsored by an insurance company called a Combined Insurance Company. And the leader of that school was W. Clement Stone. And that's what he had. He actually even gave us little coins that said PMA on it, positive mental attitude. And this man, W. Clement Stone, worked with people like Napoleon Hill. And in fact, they even wrote a book together later. And Napoleon Hill wrote Think and Grow Rich, the classic book on self-development. And, I was exposed to that so early in my life, yet I didn't do much with it. It just didn't click with me, not till later. But I still remember that now. And I thought, wow, it was, my soul telling me, the universe telling me, this is what you need to be talking about. This is what you need to do in your life. But my eyes were closed and my mind was shut to all that. So don't let that happen to you. Make a difference. Grab the attitude you need. Live 30 adventurous years. Who cares if you make it to 100 or 90? It doesn't matter. You know what? None of us are going to get out of this one alive. None of us. That's risk. That's what risk is. Life is risk. Don't be afraid to take risk. It's so risky, we're not going to make it. None of us are. It's you can play it safe and be afraid to do things and have that safe mentality and attitude, but really, getting in your car is risky. Walking across the street is risky. Getting married is risky. It doesn't matter. You take risks every day. So why not take some risks and have an adventure and do what you want with your life? Take control. You can do this. And the attitude comes from our thoughts. And I've preached many times, thoughts become things. And they do. And you could imagine if your mind was a factory and it was, thinking things all the time and producing things. And we put things into our mind, which could be like, news, media, newspapers, whatever it is, whatever we're consuming, we're putting into our mind. And it's like an alloy of metals all going in there, getting mixed up. But they get impure. They're no longer good thoughts. And then because our mind is a factory and we're melting all this metal, picture that as a molten steel factory, a smelting factory where they made steel. And your mind tips down, and through your mouth, this molten steel comes out and goes in these little carts on a conveyor belt. And when it's doing that, it's like your words, and that's what you're speaking. So what you're thinking comes out here, and it's very, very powerful, because thoughts becomes things, and your words bring it to life. So it goes on that conveyor belt in those little carts, and it goes down and becomes things, sometimes manifesting into physical things. Sometimes it just goes along and affects others. What you said affects others. And sometimes it just circles around and comes back again and gets dumped back in, because it didn't really go anywhere, because we were too indecisive. We were too indifferent. We had too much worry. We were overcautious. We were pessimistic. We were busy complaining. And those are the diseases of attitude. So, get yourself a great attitude, get out of the doldrums, get moving, get action, doing action. The way you can change your life in an instant is get up off the chair right now. Whatever you're doing, just get up and move. Nothing happens unless something moves. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I look forward to talking to you again very, very soon. Bye for now.